It was fun while it lasted, but Tank Davis has done it again. Stopped Rolly Romero in round number 6, TKO. It was fun. It was a fun night. I mean, we were waiting and waiting and waiting on the edge of our seats, waiting for one of these big punchers to throw a big punch, to connect, to land, and to ultimately do damage and ultimately stop one of these guys. And that's what happened tonight. We got Tank Davis, who got Rolly, caught Rolly. Great shot. Rolly was done for. At first, I thought it was a bad stoppage because it seemed like Rolly was up and fairly alert. I know he was a little dazed, a little dizzy, but I thought he was fairly alert. And then ultimately, Rolly was stopped. Referee David Field stopped the fight. And I saw Rolly walking back. Rolly wasn't very steady on his feet, so it was a good stoppage. Tank Davis has done it again. Not surprising. I mean, we're not shocked, surprised by this outcome. Everyone expected Tank Davis to stop Rolly Romero. It was just a matter of when, where, how. I mean, it just wasn't. The result is not unexpected. Rolly was competitive for as long as the fight lasted. Rolly clearly was the bigger man. But Tank clearly was the bigger puncher. I thought Rolly had Tank hurt maybe a little in that second round, but it wasn't, both of these guys are power punchers, and both of these guys obviously don't throw a lot. The activity level of both of these guys is not very high, but at the end of the day, Tank Davis connected, and Tank Davis got the job done. Look, Barclays Center, darn near sellout out there. It was a huge crowd. Madonna was in the building. Tracy Morgan was in the building. Michael Strahan was in the building. So you had a lot of big names in the building at Barclays Center. People anticipating, Tank Davis, say what you will about the guy, but the guy is box office. Tank Davis is box office. And at this point, we didn't see Floyd Mayweather there. Floyd Mayweather wasn't there at any of the press conferences. It wasn't there tonight. As far as I know, we didn't see Floyd. Obviously, they would have put the camera on Floyd if Floyd was in the building, and because Floyd's usually pretty active in Tank's corner. But Floyd wasn't there, and at this point, this was Tank Davis's last fight with Mayweather Promotion. So, I mean, obviously, he's probably still going to stay without Heyman, but at this point, he has flexibility. Tank Davis has flexibility, right? He can decide, what kind of fight he wants to take, where he wants to take it. Look, he's box office. He doesn't have to take a type of deal that Devin Haney had to take in order to get George Kambosos. The reason Devin Haney had to take that particular fight, and with the terms that he had to take, was because the reality is Devin Haney is not box office the way Tank Davis is box office, so he had to take that particular fight with those particular terms, where you got to go to Australia if you win once, and then you got to go back to Australia for the rematch. So it's definitely a situation. Tank Davis has flexibility. So he can decide what he wants to do, where he wants to go, and how he wants to do it. Right? Tank Davis has flexibility. He's box office. He's A-side in a lot of fights between 130 and 135. He can even go up to 140. Tank Davis is, one of the cash cows in boxing. One of the big names in boxing. He's not Canelo, but he's right there. Tank Davis sold out in Baltimore, big numbers in Atlanta, big numbers in California, big numbers at Barclays Center tonight. That place was jumping, that place was packed, and it's all because of Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, it's time to a degree to take the training wheels off this guy. It's time for him to start fighting some of the big names. Now, with him not being with Mayweather Promotion, he's still without Heyman. Right? So he's still, probably going to be tied to Showtime, probably going to be tied to Fox, BBC, all that. If Fox and the BBC are still together, we don't know about that, but it appears that's done as well. But he's probably going to probably still be tied to BBC and tied to Showtime. So, but I don't know. What fights can be made that are exciting on the PBC side? Not many, if any, really, at this point. So, and look, say what you will about Rolly Romero, he sold this fight. Rolly sold this fight. Sold it at the press conferences. He sold it. Rolly did his job. He did his job, and it's one of the reasons this fight was sold. I mean, Rolly clearly, in terms of talent, doesn't have the talent of Tank Davis. Rolly clearly, none of us expected Rolly to win tonight, but Rolly is charismatic. Rolly is funny. He says some dumb stuff, but he says some crazy stuff, a little stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, it's funny. It's interesting. It resonates with people, and so Rolly helped sell this fight. And so give Rolly credit for doing that. He sold the fight. He did his job. Rolly did his job tonight. He sold the fight. He was a perfect B-side. Perfect B-side. And at the end of the day, made Tank look good. And this is what Tank does. He knocks people out. Tank Davis knocks people out. And he knocked Rolly Romero out. At first, I was thinking, okay, it was a bad stoppage. That was my initial thought. It was a bad stoppage. But then as I saw Rolly walking back to the locker room, unsteady, unsure of himself, didn't really seem like he knew he was in Brooklyn. And he may have thought he was in Las Vegas at that point. But I mean, so give Tank Davis his due. I give Rolly credit. Rolly fought well for about 4 or 5 rounds, right? I thought he was winning the fight. Yeah, I had him ahead on my card, but it was like I had him ahead 3-2. But it could have went either way, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of some of these rounds, because there were some of these rounds where it wasn't a lot of action, where there wasn't a lot of from both sides. Wasn't a lot of action from Rolly, not a lot of action from Tank Davis. But at the end of the day, give Tank his due. Give Tank his credit. He did his job tonight. This is what Tank does. Tank is not, a guy with a big time work rate. Tank is a guy with concussive power. He sets it up and he sets it up nice. The dude has dynamite in his hands. Those hands are dynamite. Those hands are electric. That power is electric. That power is off the hook. That power is crazy. That power is ridiculous, and that power will knock you out. Pretty good. I mean, it was definitely an awesome fight. Definitely an awesome fight for as long as it lasted. It was fun. I mean, again, you would like some more punches thrown, but it was fun. It was fun because I think we were all at the edge of our seats waiting. Who's going to get that first punch? First of all, we all got excited. Not excited, but everybody, Rolly made the prediction that he's going to knock Tank out in the first round. Obviously, everyone knew that wasn't going to happen. But, Rolly said it. It was fun. It was funny. And ultimately, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Clearly, it didn't happen. And no one expected that to happen. I thought Rolly had his moment in round 2. I think he had Tank hurt. But again, give Tank credit, man. Give Tank credit. Give Tank credit. This dude is box office. This dude is big time. He's big time. He's a draw no matter where he is. And say what you will about Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Ellerbe, and those guys over there. They built the star. Right? You got to give him credit for building a star. Tank Davis is a star. And they did a great job with this promotion. I mean, this is, again, and credit to Rolly. He helped make this promotion go. He helped make this promotion fly. He helped make this promotion maybe what it was. Could Isaac Cruz have sold this fight the way Rolly Romero sold it? No, not at all. Because he doesn't have the mic skills. I don't think Isaac Cruz knows English. So, again, give Rolly credit for what he did tonight. Give Rolly credit for what he did this week. And give Rolly credit for what he did in terms of the build-up to this particular fight. He sold the heck out of this fight. And yes, Tank Davis is a beast. Tank Davis is a problem. Tank Davis is all those things. He is all those things. And the reality is Tank Davis has done everything he needed to do. At this point in time, undefeated fighter. But, his greatest win at this point, we look at Tank, his best win is probably against Jose Pedraza. So it's time for him to get in the ring with, the better and the top guys at 130, between 130 and 135. And it would be ideal if he fought the winner of Kambosos Haney. I mean, that would be the ideal situation when it comes to Tank Davis. That would be ideal, right? We look at Tank Davis, we look at his record, and again, okay, who's his best win again? If you go looking through his resume, his best win is probably Jose Pedraza, right? That's probably Tank's best win, Jose Pedraza. That's his best win. And so we need to see Tank now in a 50-50 situation. Haney Kambosos is a 50-50 situation as far as I'm concerned. We need to see Tank in that type of fight. Tank Lomachenko, that would be great, right? That would be something we would like to see. That's something we would that would interest us, that would excite us, right? We'd be interested in something like that. That's a fight that definitely would sell. So why not? I would love to see something like that, right? Only person I don't think Tank Davis can beat between 130 and 135, and that's Shakur Stevenson. I don't think anybody between 130 and 135 can beat Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson has that ability to just win rounds. The dude just wins rounds. He outboxes you. He does his job, and he just wins rounds. He collects rounds, collects points, and gets the job done. I don't think there's anybody out there between 130 and 135, including Gervonta Tank Davis, that can beat Shakur Stevenson. I don't see it, but I could be wrong. And it would be a fight that I would love to see. I don't think we're going to be seeing it anytime soon, but it is a fight that I would love to see. So at this point, look, Tank is the regular WBA champion at this point. He's got one of those. They're getting rid of all those things. So the reality is he's got to be in line as far as I'm concerned. The fight that only makes logical sense is the winner of Haney Kambosos, but we don't know how long that could go because, again, if Haney goes over there and beats Kambosos, there's a rematch clause. And so, Haney Kambosos, we'll probably see it again if Haney goes over there and beats Kambosos. So the reality is when it comes to Tank Davis, who does he fight? Ryan Garcia would be nice, and there was talks that, that fight could have happened a few years ago, but didn't come to fruition, but there was talks that, those two camps were in talks to getting that fight done. That would have been a good fight in terms of box office. I still think that's a fight that Tank wins, but in terms of box office, that would have been a fun fight. That would have been an exciting fight. Ryan Garcia has, a decent Instagram following, has a decent social media following, so that would be a decent fight. But what's next for Tank? Where does he go? Where does Tank Davis go? How does he handle this situation now that he's free from Mayweather Promotions? How does he handle it? Still Al Heyman, obviously. So, again, it's probably going to be a Showtime PBC situation. So, what does Tank do? Where does he go? Again, I would love Tank to fight the winner of Kambosos Haney. And I think Calvin Ford said that throughout the course of the fight week that, Tank was interested in something like that. But again, who knows how that can be worked out. Let's just say Kambosos beats Haney. Does he now fight? Would he fight Tank Davis next? It's a big money fight, be an undisputed situation. So that would be big time money. And, Tank, if I'm Tank, see, here's the thing. A guy like Devin Haney had to go over to Australia because he's not as much he's not box office the way Tank Davis is box office. So Devin Haney had to go to Australia to fight George Kambosos. That's what Devin Haney had to do because he doesn't have the leverage. Now, Tank Davis is a guy who doesn't have to go overseas. Tank Davis is a guy who doesn't have to go to Australia to fight a George Kambosos. He can make George Kambosos come over here because as far as I'm concerned, Tank Davis is the A side. I know Kambosos has the belts, but Tank Davis is the A side. And I think, in terms of that, I think Kambosos would probably have to come over here and fight probably somewhere in Las Vegas. That would be where the fight would be between Davis and Kambosos. Because I don't think if you're Tank Davis, you go over to Australia. And I'm concerned, obviously that fight's next week, but I'm concerned about Devin Haney going over to Australia. Because I feel like that's a 7-5 fight. And a 7-5 fight, that could be either way. So you're in Australia on a 7-5 fight. Well, that 7-5 fight is probably going to go to George Kambosos. So that would be my concern if I'm Team Haney. Plus, Bill Haney's probably not going to be able to be in Australia. So that's an issue as well. He's going to be without his father for the first time. So the biggest fight of his life, 23 years old in foreign soil, and he's going to have to fight without the guy that's been with him since the beginning of time. That's his daddy. That's his trainer, Bill Haney. So that's going to be interesting. Yoel Judah's supposed to go overseas with him and handle the training duties for Devin Haney. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But we look at Tank Davis tonight. We look at the electricity that was in Brooklyn. We look at the energy that was in Brooklyn. We look at the crowd that was in Brooklyn. That was fun. That was a fun fight in Brooklyn, New York City. That was fun, right? Set records, right, in Brooklyn in terms of the highest grossing fight. So, look, it did what it needed to do. Tank did what it needed to do tonight. And this was a fight Tank Davis said he didn't want. He didn't want to fight Rolly. Didn't want the Rolly fight, but got it. He didn't want it. Said it's not a fight he wanted, but look, there's not many people that could have sold the fight the way Rolly could have sold it. The mic skills that Rolly had, the ability to talk, the ability to say stupid, funny things throughout the course of this whole situation, right? That was funny. That was interesting. That sold the fight. That got people excited. That sold some units. I'm very interested to see what this did on pay-per-view. I'm very interested to see what this did. But look, we got Tank Davis as a star. Star at the box office, star in the ring. But again, I want to see him take the gloves off, the kid gloves off, and I want to see him go up against, one of the big boys at 135. And clearly that is Kambosos. At this point, he is the champion, right? So we look at the situation with this fight now, going back to this fight and looking at it. We're going to look at the scorecards at that point, at the time of the stoppage, where Davis stopped Rolly in round number 6. This is according to Mike Coppinger of ESPN. So Rolly Romero was ahead on one scorecard, 48-47, but was down on the other two, 49-46 and 48-47. So he's up on one card, 48-47, down on two others, 49-46 and 48-47. So, obviously it was a situation with Rolly, in terms of scorecards. Again, I had Rolly winning the fight at the time of the stoppage. I had the 48-47, but again, I have no issue with 48-47 the other way. I didn't like 49-46 for Davis. I thought Rolly collected some of those rounds early on. Again, but those rounds could have went either way because there wasn't much action. There wasn't a lot of action. But again, looking at it, Mike Coppinger had it. Not Mike Coppinger, but this is the actual scorecards, the official scorecards. Again, 48-47 for Rolly, 49-46 Davis, 48-47 Davis. So two cards had Davis up and one card had Rolly Romero up before the stoppage. But no way, no how did anybody think this fight was going to the scorecards, right? There was no way this fight was ever going to make it to the scorecards. These guys, Rolly 14-0 before coming into this fight, 12 knockouts, right? So we knew that this wasn't going to happen. Tank Davis coming into this fight 26-0 with 24 knockouts. So this fight wasn't getting to the scorecards. No way, no how this fight was getting there. But again, give Tank Davis his credit. He caught Rolly, and it was night and night. And that's the ability of this guy. This guy, Tank Davis, can give away rounds because he has the ultimate equalizer, which is his power, which is his pop, which is his dynamite in his hands, which is his electricity in his hands. He has the ultimate game changer. He has the equalizer. And not many guys have what Tank Davis has. Not many guys have that equalizer. Not many guys have that ability to one punch concussive power. Devin Haney don't have it. Kambosos don't have it. Tank Davis does. And I'm not, again, I think, and I don't think Tank Davis, I think he could be, I don't think he could be Shakur Stevenson. I don't think anybody's beat Shakur Stevenson between 130 and 135. I don't see it. Could be wrong. I don't see it, though. But, anybody else? Tank Davis the favorite as far as I'm concerned. Right? And look, there was many fights. I remember when Tank Davis and Tevin Farmer were beefing, right? And Tevin Farmer had a belt. Tank, had a belt at 130. And it would have been a perfect situation. A lot of trash talking leading up to that thing, right? They could have been at Barclays at some point, sometime, and did a decent number. Because, you had Philly, Tevin Farmer from Philly, Davis from Baltimore, so you got that situation, you got nearby fans and everything. That would have been a perfect situation, right? But, it didn't happen and probably will never happen. But it would have been fun, right? That would have been a fight that I would have loved to have seen. And again, I would still love to see Tank Lomachenko. I would still love to see Tank Ryan Garcia. I would love to see Tank the winner of Kambosos Haney. I mean, I would love to see those particular fights. I don't know if we'll get them again. You got a lot of things out here in the sport of boxing. You got Zone, you got Top Rank ESPN, you got PBC, Showtime, right? So you got all these different networks involved and all these, different entities involved. So it makes it darn near impossible to get some of these fights. It makes it impossible to get these fights because people are on this side of the street, that person on that side of the street, this person on the other side of the street, this person on the corner there, and this person down the street there, so on and so forth. So it's very difficult to be getting these type of fights, the type of fights that we want to see, the type of fights that we need to see. It's very difficult to get those fights. And again, I don't think Tank Davis' situation is going to change much, even though his contract with Mayweather Promotions is over. And if I'm Tank, I have no, he did say earlier in the week that he's not, told Brian Custer that he wasn't, this was his last fight with Mayweather. He was looking to take the training wheels off and get on and, take and manage his career. So, but there's no reason for him to re-sign with Mayweather Promotions. There's no reason to. The name is built. He's box office. He's one of the more popular fighters in the sport. There's no need for him to sign with Mayweather Promotions, to re-up with Mayweather Promotions. No need. Still got Al Heyman, right? Still PBC. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter for Tank Davis at this point. The key for Tank, is to make sure he stays out of trouble. That's the key for Tank Davis. Stay out of trouble. If he can stay out of trouble, this kid has the ability to be the cash cow of the sport of boxing. He's not the most talkative of guys, but people are drawn to him. People are drawn to Tank Davis. They're drawn to the things that he brings to the table. They're drawn to him, and so because people are drawn to him, and he's got a kid-like personality to a degree, but he's exciting in the ring, and people are just drawn to this guy and what he brings to the table. He does have a situation where, he has a hit and run back in an alleged hit and run back in 2020. Eventually, he rejected a plea bargain recently for that. So at some point, he's going to have to go to trial, and that trial is set for September. So that should be interesting to see what happens there. Apparently, he faces 14 misdemeanor charges related to the incident. Apparently, he was driving with a revoked license, failed to stop at a red light, crashed a Lamborghini SUV into a Toyota. 4 occupants of the Toyota were injured in the crash, and David is charged with failure to render assistance. So, I don't know what is going to happen there. We'll see how that works out. He could, if convicted, he could receive a sentence of 7 years. That's if he's convicted. So who knows what's going to happen with that particular situation. But that is something to keep an eye on, him, going to trial in September. And again, a lot can happen between now and September in terms of, the law and them figuring that whole situation out. But he is confident enough, I guess, and maybe he didn't like the plea bargain that was offered. You do wonder if the plea bargain was a situation where he had to do some time, right? Who knows how much time he would have done if he would have pled guilty in terms of the plea bargain in that situation. So who knows, right? But, that is something to keep an eye on, him having to go to trial in September. I know he has a situation what happened before the Super Bowl, I believe a couple years ago, with the female, the alleged incident there that was caught on camera. So him putting hands on her, that was caught on camera. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation as well. So it does appear, at least that, the narrative is that, he's maturing. The narrative is that he's getting better, that he's maturing as a fighter, and he's maturing as a person. And, he does have kids now, 2 young kids, 2 little girls, 27 years old. And the reality is he did come out, some tough circumstances. It's very difficult to navigate and get out of West Baltimore. It's very difficult to get out of the city of Baltimore, the inner city of Baltimore. That's a difficult task. That's not easy to do, and he did it. Give him credit for that. He did it. So now he's growing as a man, and hopefully he's maturing as a man, and hopefully he's becoming a better person, and hopefully going forward he'll continue to navigate and become a better person, and ultimately become a star. I mean, he is a star, become a bigger star. He's a star. Tank Davis is a star. And if Baltimore, or if Atlanta didn't prove it, if California didn't prove it, he was out there. If Baltimore didn't prove it, I think tonight proved it, that this guy is a star. It was electric in New York. The excitement for this particular fight, there was a lot of excitement. A lot of people waiting for this thing to go down and this fight to happen. People were excited to see Tank Davis out there at Barclays Center tonight. People were excited to see what he brings to the table. People were excited about this fight. And that's a credit to Rolly Romero as well, and his ability to sell the fight. So Rolly did his job, Tank did his job, the promotion did his job, and everybody goes home happy. Well, maybe not Rolly Romero because he suffered his first loss. But again, he fought a decent fight for as long as he fought it. But the reality is the dude got caught. And it's very difficult to not get caught when it comes to Tank Davis. I mean, you look at him against Leo Santa Cruz. Leo was having some moments against Tank. But, Tank has that equalizer. He has that equalizer. And that power, I mean, Isaac Cruz stood up to it. Credit to Isaac Cruz. And some people thought Isaac Cruz won that fight 7-5. Right? I've heard some people say Isaac Cruz won that fight. So, look. Give Tank Davis, give Isaac Cruz credit for that. But again, Isaac Cruz wouldn't have sold this fight the way Rolly Romero sold it. So the way things worked out for this promotion, Rolly was supposed to fight Tank Davis back in December. Ultimately, he was taken off the fight because, some allegations were leveled against him of sexual assault. And ultimately, those allegations were proven. He was cleared of all that. And ultimately, he was able to fight tonight. But again, Rolly Romero, sold this fight. Rolly Romero, did his job. But Tank Davis did it better. And that's why Tank Davis is and will be at this point the champion here he's not the champion. He's got a WBA regular belt, so he's not the champion. But, Tank Davis is a guy who is, how about this one? That's funny. You remember Martin Lawrence. And actually, that's the way it looked, right? That's the way Rolly looked. It was like Martin Lawrence when he fought Thomas Hearns, right? Who remembers Martin, right? That's the way Rolly looked after he got knocked down there. And ultimately knocked out. That's the way Rolly looked, just like that. He looked just like that. That's the way he looked. His face all messed up, his eyes all wide. And then Rolly, he was unsteady. He didn't talk to Jim Grant. We'll see if he's going to be at the post-fight press conference, or we'll see if he went straight to the hospital. Because, again, he was unsteady. He was unsteady walking out of that ring. Rolly was unsteady. His father came down, but he was unsteady, didn't have his feet under him, and ultimately his legs under him, and that was it. That was a wrap. Rolly Romero gets stopped. What happens with Rolly? I mean, he obviously clearly can sell a fight. I like to see Rolly in again. Why not? The dude is funny. He's a funny guy. Does have power. A little awkward, but he does have power. So I wouldn't mind seeing Rolly again at some point, sometime. And this fight almost didn't happen. Well, who knows? I mean, Tank pushed him off the stage there. Wasn't a deep drop in terms of Rolly, but he easily could have rolled his ankle. And that could have, prevented this fight. And this fight may not have happened if that, Rolly would have rolled his ankle. So Tank, but it did help sell the fight at the end of the day. I think it did help sell the fight. And the fight was sold. The fight was sold. People cared about this fight. I think everybody knew the outcome. I mean, I don't think we're surprised by what happened tonight. I don't think anybody was like, whoa, oh my gosh, Tank Davis stopped rolling in 6? Oh my gosh, TKO in 6? I can't believe Tank got stopped rolling in 6. Nobody was surprised about that. There wasn't a surprise person or a surprise look from anybody when when Tank stopped Rolly. That wasn't really a surprise. And I think again there wasn't a surprise that Tank beat Isaac Cruz. Wasn't really a surprise that Tank Davis beat Mario Barrios. Wasn't a surprise he beat Leo Santa Cruz. Wasn't a surprise that he beat Kambosos. So you're just going down his resume and looking at his record, and there's no surprises. And that says to me, well, it's time to get this dude involved in a 50-50 fight. A fight where we'll say, oh, wow, this is a fight Tank could lose. It's time for one of those fights. It's time for one of those fights for Tank Davis. It's time that we have one of those fights. It's time. It's time for his team and Al Heyman probably going forward because again he's done with Mayweather Promotions. He's out of his contract. The contract is over. So he has a decision to make because and there's no way again. Why would he re-up with Mayweather Promotions? Why? I mean, if you stay with Al Heyman, he could do the same thing, right? I mean, you don't want all these people. You got to pay Mayweather Promotions. You got to pay Al Heyman. I mean, you got to pay all these different entities. So why would he? He's built. The built Tank Davis is a built star at this point. He's a star. He's built. So he doesn't need. He can have the flexibility of a Canelo Alvarez, right? He can have Canelo's flexibility, and have flexibility where he can say, well, I could do this, I could do that, I do whatever I want at this point, and so he has that flexibility, and he doesn't need Mayweather Promotions. I know Calvin Ford, caught up with him this week at the press conferences. I caught up with him. So, I mean, Calvin, said he's, Floyd and Mayweather Promotions, and he's gonna stick with them. I mean, he's still gonna do business with them because he said, you know what, we're still, Floyd and Tank are like brothers. So he said they're still gonna do business together, and we'll see what happens in terms of the business they do together.
It's just not on contract,
right? I mean, but he said they're still going to do business together, and we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. Like he doesn't. There's no reason for Tank to stay with Floyd Mayweather at this point. There's no reason. There's no reason. He has no reason to stay with Floyd Mayweather. What is the reason for Tank Davis to stay with Floyd Mayweather and win Mayweather Promotions? Absolutely no reason. Right here, let's listen what Calvin said. Calvin Ford said this earlier this week, so let's listen what Calvin said. And
I can't tell you that; it's my little secret. But we have a goal and a dream that we're chasing.
Okay. So we talked about Tank in the business now. Mm-hmm. There's talk that he could be leaving Mayweather Promotions. He said he was to Brian Custer that this is his last fight.
Everybody missing. He's leaving. It's business.
Right, for sure.
If it's good business, we're gonna do what? Business.
For sure.
We're not leaving each other. It's just not on contract.
Okay. So you're still gonna do business with Mayweather?
I got you.
Right.
You have to do business. They brothers.
Right.
They brothers, and you got to remember they the best in boxing. You got Al and Floyd. Come on.
But it's just good. How excited for you for him to have that flexibility?
It's good because Canelo do it. Garcia did it. It's been done.
Right.
It's been done.
The reality is it's been done, in terms of, Floyd Mayweather, in terms of Tank Davis and the flexibility. So, again, he wants to maybe still do business with Mayweather Promotions, still business with Floyd, Al Heyman and all those guys. Again, doesn't make much sense to me at this point to why would you need to do business with Floyd Mayweather if you're doing business with Al Heyman, right? There's no need to do that if you got business with Al Heyman. Why would you need to do business with Floyd? Again, you're a built entity. You are one of the superstars of boxing. You don't need that. You don't need it. You don't need it. You can go out on your own. You can take the training wheels off as he mentioned earlier this week, and go forward. And go forward. He can go forward now. Floyd Mayweather was not there. We didn't see Floyd. We haven't seen Floyd throughout this promotion. The first press conference, Floyd was out there having his own press conference in Miami, promoting his situation. And he wasn't at any of the fight week stuff, and we didn't see him tonight. So Floyd Mayweather wasn't there for anything. Leonard Ellerbe was there, CEO of Mayweather Promotions, but Floyd wasn't there. And so, I don't know what that says. I mean, about their relationship. Calvin Ford says, they're like brothers. So, I mean, I don't know. And, sometimes brothers fight. Sometimes brothers have disagreements. All right. Sometimes brothers don't always get along. But you would think if they're brothers that, you would be at the fight for your brother and support your brother and be there for your brother. You would think that would be the case. I don't know. I mean, there's times where Mayweather Promotions and Tank Davis and all those guys are on the same page. And there's times where they haven't been on the same page throughout the course of their relationship. And I guess that happens when you're in business. Sometimes you're involved with someone and everything's good, everything's exciting, everything's okay. And other times there's issues, problems, and situations. So it's just the nature sometimes of business. It's not always fun, it's not always exciting, and it's not always agreeable. And there's sometimes going to be problems. And so, look, that happens. But it's clear that maybe there could be something going on between Floyd and Tank Davis because Floyd wasn't there. You would think Floyd would be there for his fighters. I mean, Rolly's a Mayweather Promotions fighter. So maybe, if he's not there for Tank, be there for Rolly. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Who knows? But again, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this. Tank Davis did what many expected him to do. Tank Davis dropped and stopped Rolly Romero and won by, 6-round TKO in convincing fashion. All right. It was a convincing situation. Tank Davis did his job tonight. Tank Davis brought the crowd there to Brooklyn, and ultimately Tank Davis gave the crowd in Brooklyn a show. And that's the beauty of Tank Davis. So that's why people come out and watch Tank Davis, because they know somebody's going to get knocked out. They know that somebody's going to get stopped and dropped. That's the beauty of Tank Davis, and that's why people go out and see and watch Tank Davis. And again, great fight for as long as it lasted. Maybe great fight's a stretch. That might be a stretch. I say great fight, but I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Let me take back great fight. Good fight. Fun fight for as long as it went. It was fun. It was fun. And again, Rolly, did what Rolly didn't. I mean, here's the thing. Rolly, he didn't interview at the end. He a la an Adrian Broner, after Adrian Broner got beat for the first time by Marcos Maidana. Adrian Broner getting walked down, a little unsteady on his feet as he's getting walked down to his locker room. Kind of similar to Rolly Romero, a little unsteady on his feet as he was getting walked down to the locker room by his father. But you thought Rolly would speak. I mean, Rolly's been very talkative, very loquacious throughout the course of this promotion. Rolly doesn't mind speaking. Rolly, has been very active on Twitter. Rolly doesn't mind saying his piece. And tonight, Rolly was like, I ain't talking, right? I'm declining interviews. I ain't talking. I'm going to my locker room, right? And maybe, he's like, he definitely may have caught a concussion based on how unsteady he was on his legs. Rolly was not steady on his legs when he went back to his locker room. He was being held up, by his father. And he didn't look. He looked in his eyes. He didn't have that glow that he had walking into the ring. Walked into Prince's song, Dove's Cry, right? That was an interesting choice. I know he had the purple, right? But he came in with Dove's Cry. I would think that might be a little bit before his time. Not a little bit, a lot of bit before his time, right? But again, he came in, had some nice music. It was fun. I thought Tank was going to come out. I thought he'd have some rapper bring him out. That didn't happen. I don't like when these fighters bring out rappers because you can't really understand what the rapper is saying. Like you have a difficult time understanding what he's saying, so it doesn't really work. I don't think. So Tank came out, I believe, to Alicia Keys is one of Alicia some song. I think it was related to Alicia Keys. But I mean, I thought he was going to come out with somebody. I thought maybe he's come out with somebody from New York. That would kind of maybe a Brooklyn guy, right? He thought he was going to come out with some kind of Brooklyn guy tonight, leading them to the ring. Didn't happen. Thought it was going to happen, but it didn't happen. But at the end of the day, when he stepped into the ring, he did his job. He did his job. I thought Rolly hurt him in that second round. I thought Rolly did hurt him a little bit in that second round where Tank kind of fell to the ground and everything. But, I mean, I don't know. He obviously if he was hurt, he recuperated. If he wasn't hurt, he got himself right and ready. And ultimately, he did what he needed to do. He did the job. He stopped Rolly Romero in 6. Rolly didn't have much. Rolly talked so much and then had nothing to say. At the end of the fight, he went back to his locker room with nothing to say. And again, maybe he was concussed. Like the reality is, I mean, if you are concussed, well, you probably shouldn't be jumping on the mic. You probably should be back, getting looked after by a training staff of some sort. So, look, Rolly Romero, again, no one expected him to win. And again, no one expected the outcome to be any different than what it was. I think the reason we all bought the fight, the people that did buy the fight, I think what brought people to the stands and what brought people, to buying the pay-per-view was Rolly's mic skills. Give Rolly credit. If there's one thing Rolly can do, right, might be very awkward, not the most, technical of fighters, but one thing he can do is sell a fight. And Rolly Romero, if he can do anything, is sell a fight. So, because of his ability to sell a fight, maybe he's going to get himself another decent, fight and be the B-side against, a champion along the way. Maybe he's getting another shot, but he wasn't bad, and I think he did okay. But at the end of the day, he couldn't stand up, like many people, to Tank Davis's power. And not many do stand up to his power. No, not many stand up to this dude's power. So, Rolly wouldn't be any different than anybody else. And not being able to stand up to the power, the concussive power of Gervonta Tank Davis. So Tank was asked at the end of the fight if he wanted anybody else, if he wanted to call on anybody, if there's a fight that he wanted to win. I mean, not want to win, it's a fight that he wanted to have next. And he didn't name a name. And I wish he would have named a name. I wish he would have said, I don't know, Ryan Garcia. I wish he would have said the winner of Kambosos Haney. I wish he would have said some name, somebody. Just give me a name so we can look forward to. Coming into this fight, he had the interview on with Gilly the Kid. I think $1 million worth of game. He had an interview there where Gilly the Kid asked him if he ever went to Floyd and said, I want this guy or that dude. And Tank said he's never done it. He's never asked for a particular fight from any dude, anybody. So, I mean, that's that, right? He said it came from, the horse's mouth himself. He's never asked for a fight, from any of the big dudes, right? Any of the big guys. Never said I wanted this person or that person or anybody else. He has not said that. So, so it is what it is. So we'll see, who he fights next. We'll see if Tank Davis gets it on with somebody where we say it's a 50-50 situation. Somebody. Can we get somebody where we can say it's a 50-50 fight? Can we get somebody? I think that's what the fans want. They want some drama. They want to say, well, I don't know if Tank can win this fight. I think they want him to get that type of fight. He hasn't had a legacy fight. There hasn't been a legacy fight for Tank Davis. And Devin Haney, at the age of 23, he's going to Australia for a legacy fight. That's a legacy fight, undisputed, at 135. He wants to be great. He wants to be a legend. He's going after it. Now, that being said, Devin Haney doesn't have what Tank Davis has in terms of box office appeal. Devin Haney doesn't have what Tank Davis has in terms of that. Tank Davis is a built entity. Tank Davis is box office. Tank Davis is a star. And Devin Haney, obviously if he does what he says he's going to do, and some people believe he's going to do, and that is beat George Kambosos to be the undisputed champion at 135. Look, if Devin Haney can go over to Australia and beat George Kambosos, that's legendary. You're going over the pond, right? You're going on somebody else's soil, another country's soil, right? And you're going over there to be great, to be legendary, knowing that and you don't have your pop. Bill Haney can't go because of what he did I think it was 30 years ago, right? I think it was a drug conviction 30 years ago. And so it's kind of crazy, but Australia is strict like that in terms of who they let in their country. But it's kind of crazy, something you did 30 years ago. I mean, if you ain't do nothing since that 30 years, if you ain't do nothing in 30 years, well, guess what? You're changed. You're different. You're rehabilitated. Is what when you go to jail. That's the whole reason to a degree to go to jail, to rehabilitate you, to make you a better person. Obviously, it doesn't always happen. A lot of times it don't happen actually, but that's the reality of it. Go to jail, rehab, get better, become a better person, and ultimately come out and be productive in society. That's the goal. And clearly, Bill Haney has done that. Right? 30 years ago, he convicted of, I think it was some kind of drug conviction, I believe he said. And he came back, got out and made something of himself and became a decent human being, a productive human being, and living his best life. But, that's the Australia situation. So we look at Devin Haney, he's looking to be legendary. He's looking to go overseas, going to Australia, knowing that there's a possibility that he's not going to get a fair shake on those scorecards. I mean, Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, right? That should tell you all you need to know in terms of what could happen in Australia when Devin Haney, not if, when he goes over there, he's already over there, when he fights George Kambosos. It's not a good situation. And again, I think that particular fight, I said earlier, Kambosos and Haney is a 7-5 fight as far as I'm concerned. And so a 7-5 fight on Australian soil says to me, well, guess what? The odds are against Devin Haney in that particular fight. He's going to have to probably maybe knock George Kambosos out. And I don't know if he can do it. He hasn't proven that he has the power to do it. So I don't know. And we've seen Haney, against Linares. We've seen him get caught. But he still battles through. Hasn't been knocked, hasn't been dropped. But he's, we've seen him get caught. And again, it's a difficult situation for Devin Haney. And but he wants to be legendary. Canelo went up to 175 to fight Dimitri Bivol because he wanted to be legendary. Right? These dudes are going after whatever they need to go after because they want to be legendary. And in order to be a legend, you got to do some legendary things. And Canelo going to 175 to fight Bivol, that's taking chances. That's going after greatness. And Devin Haney going overseas to Australia with the odds stacked against you, that's wanting to be great. That's wanting to be the best. And so credit to him. Now I want to see Tank in a legendary fight. Now I want to see Tank. But here's the thing, when you're A side and when you're box office, and you haven't really fought a 50-50 fight outside of Pedraza, he's trying to get a belt there, but outside of that, he hasn't fought a 50-50 fight, hasn't fought a situation where you're saying Tank could lose tonight, hasn't been in any of those situations, right? No one said that Tank could lose tonight. No one coming into this fight said Tank could lose tonight. No one coming into the fight against Isaac Cruz said Tank could lose tonight, right? No one says that. We are saying that Devin Haney could lose to George Kambosos. Do I think Devin Haney is better than George Kambosos? I do. But I also believe that, at the same time, Devin Haney, 23 years old, and going to Australia is tricky. It's tricky. But Tank Davis, and the beauty of Tank Davis, if he were to fight George Kambosos again, Tank Davis, he don't got to go to Australia because he has the leverage, because he's box office. He doesn't have to go to Australia. And in fact, if I'm Tank Davis, I'm not going to Australia. That absolutely makes no sense. If you're Tank Davis and you fight George Kambosos, right, you ain't leaving the States because it doesn't make sense. You don't have to. And, Devin Haney had a lot of flexibility in terms of his promotional situation. But, doing business with Matchroom and everything. But at the same time, in order for him to get the fight against Kambosos, he had to, agree to some stipulations that makes it tricky. Obviously, having to go to Australia once and then a rematch clause where he's going to have to go to Australia again if he wins. So it's a tricky situation for Devin Haney. And I'm not so sure he comes out of it unscathed. I'm not so sure he wins. Not because he's not better, but because of the situation that he's up against. It's a tough situation for Devin Haney. But when you're Tank Davis, you don't have to do it. When you're the A side, you don't have to do those type of things. You can get a more even playing field as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think it's an even playing field, especially now his father won't be able to go over there. His daddy won't be able to go over there. The guy who's been with Devin Haney for his whole life won't be able to go over there. So that has got to be difficult. The biggest moment of your career, and the dude that got you there, not only is your father, but he's your trainer, he can't go. So that complicates it. That makes things so tricky. So, and he'll have to figure it out, right? I mean, he's a man, 23 years old, he'll figure it out. Tank Davis is a man, 27 years old, and it appears on some level he's figuring some things out. His trainer, Calvin Forbes, well, this dude's not partying no more, right? This dude is maturing. This dude's got kids now. This dude sees the bigger picture. He sees things a lot better at this point of his development. He's becoming better at this point of his development as a person, as a man, and he's going for it. Here's the thing: Tank Davis has all the skills of the world, has all the pop and all the potential to be a superstar in the sport of boxing. You could argue he's a superstar at this point based on what he's doing at the box office. But he needs that character piece. And that character piece is what's going to sustain him. That character piece is what's going to sustain him and maintain him and help him to stay at the top of the sport. He's got to make sure he gets that character piece. And, that character piece comes with age. That character piece comes with wisdom. It comes with time. Wisdom comes with time and age, right? And he's getting that, apparently. Apparently, that's what they're saying. That's the word on the street, right? He's getting those things. And, the reality is he also has to keep clean because he's got a trial coming up in September. So that's also something to look at when it comes to Tank Davis. But at the end of the day, he's becoming a better man, right? And that's all you can ask. Apparently he's becoming a better man, a more mature man. And that's all you can ask for someone, to be better, to be more mature, to grow up and learn from things and become better. Right? That's what Tank Davis is trying to do. He's trying to become a better man. And look, that's a great thing, right? It's great when you become better. That's great when you elevate yourself. That's great when you grow up as a man, as a person. That is some great stuff. And that's what Tank Davis is trying to do at this point of his life. He's trying to grow up and become better. And that's cool, man. That's the way it should be. Right? We as men, we as boys, we elevate and become men. And that was just what it needs to be. Oh man. So Mike Coppenter's reporting this. This was at tonight's fight between Gervonta Davis and Rolly Romero in Brooklyn. Was a scary scene. I was just in the Barclays Center. Suddenly I heard shouting, and saw people running. Then we were being yelled at that there was an active shooter. And we had to huddle in the room and close the doors. I was so effing petrified. Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy. Naomi Osaka, excuse me. So, wow. It was, man, that's scary. That's a scary situation, especially coming on the heels of what we saw in Texas And prayers out to those families in that situation in Texas. Terrible situation. All those kids dying and the adults. I mean, it's just terrible. And an active shooter situation out there in Brooklyn, right? People just don't know how to act. They just don't know how to act, right? And that's a scary situation. That's a scary situation. Again, just Naomi Osaka, I was just in the Barclays Center, and suddenly I heard shouting, and I saw people running. Then we were being yelled at that there was an active shooter, and we had to huddle in a room and close the doors. Wow, that's scary. That's a scary situation, and that was out there in Brooklyn, New York, the site of Tank Davis, Rolly Romero. Apparently there's some shouting, apparently some shooting going on, an active shooter out there. That's scary. That's a scary situation. And we're a lot of people on heightened alert because of what's going on in this country. Again, what happened in Texas has people on heightened alert, and to see a situation like that, where an active shooter and somebody could get hurt, somebody could die. I mean, that's a scary situation. That is a scary situation, and hopefully doesn't happen again. Again, Naomi Osaka, you went on. I really hope everyone made it out safely. Since I'm tweeting this, we made it out okay. So she's okay. She's good to go. She's straight. No issues and no problems with her. So apparently, according to Naomi Osaka, there was an active shooter out there at Barclays Center, the site of Tank Davis-Rolly Romero. Tank Davis stopped Rolly in 6, but there was an active shooter out there. Again, reading the tweet, I was just in Barclays Center, so I heard shouting and saw people running, and they were being yelled at that there was an active shooter, and we had to huddle in a room and close the doors. I was so effing petrified. Wow. So, again, that is a scary situation. Again, she made it out okay. She's safe, and hopefully everybody else made it out okay, and hopefully everybody else is safe out there at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York City. A lot of things going on. A lot of things going on in this world, in this country. And again, Naomi Osaka, talked about an active shooter out there at Barclays Center, the site, again, of Tank Davis, Rolly Romero. And again, hopefully everybody got out there safely. Hopefully there is no issues and no problems there. But that is scary. That is truly a scary situation. People, active shooters and all that. I mean, that's no fun, man. That is no fun, and that is scary. So, Chris Mannix, sounds of gunshots inside Barclays Center. Wow, scary stuff, man. So obviously there was a shooter, an active shooter at the Barclays Center, the site of Davis Romero, and according to Naomi Osaka, she had to go hide in a room, huddle in a room. Man, that's scary. Scary, scary stuff. More order inside Barclays Center seems to be restored. A man with a young child trying to exit out a different door said there were shots fired outside the front door. Wow. Scary, man. Someone could have, we don't know, if anybody got shot, but there was an active shooter. And that's a scary situation. More people talking about being told there was a gunman outside of Barclays Center in New York. Shots were fired and people are being kept indoors. Okay, people are being kept indoors because of the gunshots that were. That's scary stuff. That is scary stuff. And to see some people, the possibilities of people getting hurt, possibilities of people getting shot, all that is scary. And I mean, there's no way to put it. It was a great night of boxing, but to see it kind of get messed up because of people not being and acting right. So here we go. No shots were fired inside Chris Mannix. No shot was fired inside Barclays. A source told SI. Whatever happened took place just outside the building. So according to Chris Mannix and sources telling SI.com, there was no shots fired inside the Barclays Center. Apparently the shots were fired outside the Barclays Center. So, that's some of the reporting that we're seeing right there. We got Stefan Bundy, works for the New York Daily News. I was inside Barclays Center, and at the end of the fight, as everybody was clearing out, there were reports of gunshots. I didn't hear them, but security guards said reporting on the radio was it occurred on the concourse. Crazy stampede of people followed. Scary scene. So again, that's Stefan Bundy from the New York Daily News. According to Chris Mannix, the shots apparently happened outside of Barclays Center. So, again, different reports coming out in terms of this situation. But no matter what the reports are, no matter what's going on, it's scary stuff. That is scary stuff, right? Oh, man, look at this. Ryan Singala. Look at this. You see the crowd storming out after, the possibility of gunshots being fired. People running out. That's scary, man. Woo, that's scary. That's some scary stuff there. Scary, scary stuff. People running out, trying to get out of the building. People trying to get out of the building. Trying to get out because there's a gunshot. Wow. You got people trying to get out of the building. Whoa. Right? Scary. Scary stuff. But apparently there was a shooter, an active shooter situation. Apparently those things were done outside of the Barclays Center. It's crazy. Crazy situation. Again, hopefully everybody that was there, everybody got out safely. Whoever was outside, hopefully they got out safely. And hopefully, everybody is good going forward. But that's a scary sight and a scary situation. We got some more footage to the aftermath of the situation. People just, stuff everywhere.
This is crazy.
Crazy stuff. Wow, that's crazy. So again, gunshots probably fired outside of Barclays Center, right? Gunshots were probably fired just outside of Barclays Center in Brooklyn tonight, following the Gervonta Davis-Rolly Romero Showtime pay-per-view fight in the arena. We got Chris Mannix's tweets. We looked at that. Order has been restored. We got Naomi Osaka. We looked at that. Again, good news that no one got hurt. Good news, apparently. I don't know. It appears no one was killed in this situation. No one was shot. But, 19,000 people, firing shots, shooting, sellout situation in Brooklyn, New York. So much could have went wrong there tonight. Obviously, when you got people shooting, and obviously when you have that many people around, so many things can happen. So many wrong things can happen in that particular situation. It's just, we don't know what they're doing at this point. We don't know what is what at this point. But again, according to Chris Mannix of SI.com, the shooting reportedly happened outside of Barclays Center. So not inside Barclays Center. The shooting happened outside of Barclays Center. Scary. Scary. But again, we'll see, the aftermath of that going forward. We got Leonard Ellerbe talking about Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia don't want to fight. You have people like Mannix out there pumping him up, making it seem like he's a killer. He don't want that fight. I don't know if he wants to fight. He did say the situation that, remember there were reports that Garcia was going to fight Manny Pacquiao in an exhibition fight some time ago. But Ryan Garcia tweeted out, those things fell through, and ultimately those negotiations cost him a fight with Tank Davis. That's what Ryan Garcia said at that time. He said that recently. But Leonard Ellerbe said he don't want to fight. Ellerbe also declined to discuss Tank's contract. Says Mayweather Promotions is still Gervonta's promoter. Mayweather was not in attendance due to a family emergency, according to Ellerbe. So that's why Floyd wasn't there. Floyd was dealing with a family emergency at this point, at this time. And so that is why he wasn't in the building tonight. And he wasn't there all week in terms of, at the press conferences, at the media workouts and things of that nature. So there's a reason he wasn't there. And I guess the reason he wasn't there was because he had a family emergency. And whatever that family emergency is, we hope that everything is good with Floyd Mayweather and his family. Obviously, Tank Davis's box office attendance at Barclays Center, 18,970 people were in attendance with a live gate of about $5 million made tonight there at Barclays Center. Scary scene at Barclays Center because, there was an active shooter apparently, but that shooter, right, supposedly that was happening outside of the Barclays Center. We got Rolly Romero, says he believed he won all 6 rounds of the fight, said he exposed Gervonta Davis, and we need to run that ish back. I don't think this fight is getting ran back. I think Rolly had his chance, his moment to beat Tank Davis tonight, and Rolly won't get another shot at it. I think that is done. That ship has sailed. Do I think Rolly won all 6 rounds? No. I do think he won about 3 of those. I think he won about 4 rounds. I do believe he won around 3 or 4 rounds. But I think he was fighting. I think Rolly was fighting well, fighting decently. Standing up the Tank and was solid until he got caught. But that's what happens against Tank Davis. You get caught. I think Leo Santa Cruz was doing well until he got caught. That's it, right? Rolly, continues to deflect questions about his future, says he only wants Gervonta again. I had him running like a bleep the entire fight. He was terrified of me. So Rolly wants Tank again. Again, not going to happen. Rolly ain't getting that rematch. It's not happening. That ship has sailed, but we'll see what happens. But again, Rolly is going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That's what Rolly does. And again, that's why he is who he is, and that's why this fight sold to a degree. Rolly did. Romero says the referee helped Davis a lot. He was holding me. Says he regularly hit Davis with a stiff jab. Had some issues with the referee. Again, no excuses. The better man won tonight. And again, you can't really complain. You can't really say, I won all 6 rounds and I did this, that, and the third, but you got dropped and stopped. Right? So whatever you have to say is irrelevant because you got dropped and stopped. It wasn't like, this fight went 10, 11 rounds and, you were possibly up on some scorecards and, you piled up some rounds and then you get caught in the 11th or 12th round late in the fight. It wasn't that. You got dropped and stopped in the 6th round. So midway through the fight, you got dropped and stopped. So, Rolly can say what he wants. Rolly's going to say what he wants, and I get it. Says he exposed. Say he believes he exposed Gervonta Davis. I don't think he exposed him, right? I mean, I think we've seen this about Tank with Tank, him giving up rounds. We've seen this when it comes to Tank, him giving up rounds, and so it's not like we're shocked, surprised, and amazed. This is what we saw and see out of Tank Davis on a regular basis. He gives up rounds. He gives you rounds. He gives up rounds. He does. He does. And so that's what happens. He does give up rounds. And he gave up, some rounds tonight, but he had the equalizer. He had the ultimate equalizer. And that ultimate equalizer is his power, is that concussive power, is that one-punch knockout power, is that electric power. That's what we saw tonight. We saw power. We saw, dynamite in those hands. We saw power. And power is why Tank Davis is who he is. Power is why 18,970 people were at Barclays Center tonight. Power is why, he may have sold a decent amount of pay-per-views, or maybe because of Rolly Romero. Give Rolly Romero credit, man. Like, we say what he want about Rolly in terms of, his awkward style and all that, but give him credit. Give him credit. Rolly helped sell this fight. Rolly did his job. Rolly did his job. Go out there, help sell the fight, and Rolly did just that. He sold the fight. Now, I don't think we'll see this again. Rolly wants it again, but he ain't going to say it again. I mean, Rolly, talked a lot of noise. Talked about first-round knockout and all that. Look, it sells the fight. And he did his job. That's what being a professional fighter is. You go out there and you sell the fight to the best of your abilities, right? You do. That's what your job is. You're an independent contractor, and as an independent contractor, your job is to go out there and sell yourself, and so you can make as much money as possible. So the pay-per-view can make as much money and people can buy it. So people can buy tickets. So people can do everything that they need to do, that you want people to do in terms of buying and watching and seeing the fight. Rolly did his job tonight. Rolly was, a big part of this promotion. Rolly did the majority of the talking. And it was funny at times, silly at others, stupid. Funny at times, silly at other times, and stupid as well. All in the same thing. And some of the things he was saying was just silly. It says something related to Tank looking like a koala with chlamydia. Right? Like, come on. That's like stupid. Like, that's stupid, but it's funny. Like, it's stupid, but it's funny. And Rolly said a lot of stupid but funny stuff. I mean, we saw Tank, throughout at the press conference on Thursday, Rolly saying some of the stupid stuff and Tank saying, what? Right? You see Tank. And Tank, credit to him. Credit to Tank, right? He did his job too, clearly. He did his job, right? Everybody did their job. Rolly came in, talked it up, talked a good game, was boisterous, was loud, was cocky, was arrogant, said silly and crazy and funny stuff. And Tank did his job at the end of the day too, because he gave the fans a knockout. He gave the fans excitement. And again, not surprising. Like, none of us are shocked, surprised, and amazed. None of us. If you are, you need to get yourself checked out, because what happened tonight is not surprising. Again, Rolly wants the rematch. Give Rolly the rematch. Give Rolly the rematch, Tank. Nah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. I think Tank is going to go on to, I hope, bigger and better things, but there's no telling if that's going to happen, right? Because the reality is with Tank, I mean, let's be real. He's not been in a lot of 50-50 fights. Jose Pedraza, to me, is the only thing. It's the only thing that stood out. Jose Pedraza, the fight against Jose Pedraza. That's the only thing that stood out. And if you're just joining us, we saw the situation. Apparently, there was an active shooter at Barclays Center. According to Chris Mannix, the active shooter was on the outside of Barclays Center. But, there was a scene of people running, in fear. Again, Naomi Osaka, she's a tennis player. Naomi Osaka. I was just in the Barclays Center, suddenly I heard shouting and saw people running, and they were being yelled at that there was an active shooter, and we had to huddle in a room and close the door. I was so effing petrified. So, that is Naomi Osaka. She was scared. She was petrified. She was, and rightfully so. I mean, come on. If there's people shooting, you're going to run and you're going to be petrified. You're going to be scared. You're going to be upset, and you're not going to be sticking around. You're going to be running. You're going to be running. Tank Davis came to the press conference, with no shirt on, right? Rolly again had Davis run like a bleep the entire fight. He got a nice shot in. That's all that happened. He got hurt multiple times and ran around. He was terrified of me, and I doubt he'll do the rematch. I doubt he'll do the rematch again. I mean, you would have a hard time selling a rematch again, right? This time, this was easy to sell. I don't think you'd be able to sell a rematch. And that's what made Rolly the perfect opponent tonight. He really was the perfect opponent because of his ability to sell the fight. Rolly can sell a fight, right? He can sell the fight. Rolly did his job tonight. He sold the heck out of this fight. And Rolly, that's what makes Rolly a guy that you want to see in this fight. He sold it. Rolly said, like I said earlier, he said so many stupid things, said so many funny things. Came to the first press conference way back to, before the first fight. He had a fur coat on with no shirt on underneath, right? Rolly, he had some loud outfits on, right? But he sold the heck out of this fight. Job done correctly by Rolly Romero. He did his job tonight. Credit to Rolly. He sold the fight like a used car salesman. He did what he had to do. He's talking about, I'm going to get a first round knockout. I'm going to do this and that in the third. And he clearly wasn't going for a knockout in that first round. Very tentative in that first round. Both guys were very tentative in that first round. So he wasn't going for no knockout in the first round, but he sort of sold the heck out of the fight. Give him credit. It's kind of like Floyd Mayweather, right? Floyd Mayweather talked all the noise coming up to a fight. I'm not comparing Rolly to Floyd Mayweather. Let's just be clear about that. But in terms of talking, Floyd Mayweather would talk. But at the end of the day, you go in the ring and do what Mayweather does: collect rounds, be successful, and win a fight. That's what Floyd Mayweather has done throughout the course of his career, right? But he talked it up, and sold a fight. Sold fights and ultimately became a billionaire. And now is able to, go on the exhibition fight market and make more money. So, I mean, look, Floyd Mayweather was able to sell fights. That's what he's able to do, but obviously he backed it up 15-0 clearly. Rolly Romero, he's able to sell a fight. But tonight, he didn't back it up. He's able to sell a fight. He's able to sell the heck out of a fight. I mean, Rolly Romero can sell a fight. And he did that tonight. He sold this one. I bet you had a lot of people buying this pay-per-view. I think this pay-per-view might have done okay. Now, I mean, is this a pay-per-view fight in the definition of a pay-per-view fight? Is this an epitome of a pay-per-view fight? No, it's not. This is not a pay-per-view fight. Clearly it's not. Right? Rolly Romero, Tank Davis is not a pay-per-view fight. But it is. At the end of the day, it's pay-per-view. It's not, you can do it is what it is. But this is not a pay-per-view fight. This fight belonged on regular Showtime. That's where the fight belonged on. But Tank, at this point, Tank ain't fighting on regular Showtime. It's just not. He's graduated to pay-per-view. Right? And he's not fighting on regular Showtime. I just hope the competition gets a little better. Right? Mario Barrios, when he went up to 140, well, Barrios was a guy that they knew they could beat. And look, that's the credit that goes to Mayweather Promotions, and maybe that's Al Heyman as well, clearly. But I mean, you put this guy and built a star. You built the star. Mayweather Promotions, LRB Floyd, and obviously Al Heyman and PBC. You built the star. You built a star. And, again, Leonard Ellerbe said he's still the promoter for Tank Davis at this point. But the contract is up. It's up. It's up. So now it's time for Tank to go on and try it out on his own and try to make it happen. Try to make it happen and try to make as much money as he can and try to get bigger and better fights. I mean, I hope he can get. I hope it finally gets bigger and better fights. Just hope, right? And enough is enough. Give me a 50-50 fight with this guy, right? Give me a 50-50 fight. And look, at the end of the day, you're making dollars. So it all makes sense why they're doing what they're doing with this man's career. And look, I give him credit. I think they're doing a good job of managing his career. You turn the dude into a star. I mean, this is prize fighting at the end of the day. So your goal, one of your goals, your biggest goal, I mean, obviously to win, but your biggest goal is to make money while you're doing it. It's your job. It's your profession. So everybody has a job and a profession. And their biggest goal is to make as much money as possible and have as much money as possible so they can be as successful as possible and have all the possibles, right? That's what you want when you are a prize fighter. You want it all. You want as much money as you can get. You want to make as much money as possible. You want to have all the cash that you can get, right? Because you can only box for so long. You can only take so many shots to the head, so many shots to the body. The head and the body ain't meant to get punched 100 times. And so that's just the reality of the situation. Salute to you, Exclusive News Insider. Salute to you as well, sir. So the reality is, look, you got to get the money. And Tank Davis has proven that he can get the money. Tank Davis has proven that he can get 18,970 people in Barclays Center to watch him tonight. Tank Davis has proven that he can get a bunch of people in Baltimore to watch him. Tank Davis has proven that he can get a bunch of people in Atlanta to watch him. Tank Davis has proven that. This dude is a star. He's a star. That's it. He's a star. Now, again, we want him to be legendary. And again, legendary is what Devin Haney is trying to do. That's why he's going to Australia. Legendary is what Canelo tried to do. That's why he went up to 175 to fight Dimitri Bivol. That's legendary. Legendary is what Errol Spence did when he went over the pond to fight Kell Brook, right, in England. Legendary. He went over and tried to get a belt in England, got the belt, got the job done. That's what legendary is. Now, fortunately for Tank Davis, he doesn't do all that. He's a cash cow, so he doesn't have to go to Australia. Well, Australia might have to come to him, right? He doesn't have to go to England. Well, England's going to have to come to him because this dude is a built star. He's a built star. There's not many fighters that can get 19,000 people into Barclays Center tonight. There's not. Tank Davis is one of them. Canelo's probably another. But not many more after that. Not many more. So, credit to Tank Davis. Credit to what he does at the box office. The dude is a star. Right? It's not like he's not, you hear him talk and it's just, obviously he's not the most talkative of guys. Right? Doesn't have the biggest of personalities. But he has a personality that draws you in. Right? Look, it's kind of kid-like at times. But it draws you in. You're drawn in by Gervonta Tank Davis. You're drawn in by the personality. You're drawn in, by the things that he does. And clearly you're drawn in by his ability to knock you out and knock people out. People are drawn by that, right? And again, if you're Rolly Romero, of course you'll want the rematch. Why would you not want the rematch, right? Why would you not want the rematch? Why would you not try to talk it up so you can fight him again? He says Tank is terrified and Dad will do the rematch. Well, duh. It's not going to happen again. Tank is not going to fight Rolly Romero again. That ship has sailed. That's gone. That ain't happening. Again, we talked about it earlier. According to Leonard Ellerby, Floyd Mayweather had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to attend the fight tonight in Brooklyn. Again, I don't know, if that's what they say, that's what's true. That's it. But I mean, the reality is, Floyd wasn't, when they first announced this fight, first press conference with this fight, Floyd was having his press conference in Miami. So again, I'm not, look, this is his last fight with Mayweather Promotions. And again, according to Calvin Ford, they're going to still do business together. Calvin said that earlier this week. They're still going to do business together. So to what extent, who knows? But there's really no need for Gervonta and Mayweather Promotions to do. There's no need. If you're like Floyd Mayweather, right? Floyd didn't really need a promoter, right? He didn't really need it at that point in his career where he became a star. And Gervonta is at that stage where how much does he really need a promoter, really? Because he's built. He's a built entity. He's a built star. And so, again, I would love to see him fight the winner of Kambosos Haney. That's the fight I want to see him fight. That's what I want to see. That's what I hope happens next. That would be fun. That'd be exciting. Again, that would be undisputed, and that would be for all the marbles. So that would be something that would be fun if it could happen. And who knows if it could happen. Ryan Garcia would be cool, sure, but according to Leonard Ellerby, Ryan Garcia doesn't want the smoke. Doesn't want the smoke, and that would be cool. But that's probably not going to happen. Teofimo Lopez would be fun. That would be fun. But Tio's probably going to 140. But that would be fun. Teofimo and Gervonta going at it. That'd be fun. But again, I don't think we're going to get it. But that would be fun. I'd be happy with that. But, so that's where it is when it comes to Tank Davis. A guy who is everything in terms of box office. A guy who knows how to sell a fight, knows how to put butts in the seat. He knows how to do all those things, and at the end of the day, he knows how to give you a happy ending, and that's what he did tonight. He gave you a happy ending in terms of a knockout. So Tank Davis knows how to do all those things. Tank Davis has done all those things and then some. So he has done those things, and so you, the people, the paying customers, are happy to pay and get, go into the Barclays Center. You're happy to do that. You, the people, are happy to do that. And we'll see how much the people were happy to buy pay-per-view tonight. We'll see. Because, let's be real about pay-per-view at this point. And let's be real about this economy. I mean, we got inflation that's crazy. Gas $4 or $5 a gallon throughout this country. Could get to $6 a gallon, they say, in most of the country by August. Right? You're talking about that situation. Food is crazy right now. Like the prices of food is ridiculous. All these things are going up. Materials for all these things are going up. And people, you got people who are out of work, out of jobs, because the economy is all jacked up because of COVID, and so, got the war in Ukraine that's had an impact on things. There's a lot of stuff out there. And there's a lot of things that people could be spending their money on rather than spending their money on pay-per-view, right? When the things start to struggle a little bit financially, you start to figure out, okay, what can I cut to save me some money? You look at cable. That's one of those things you're probably going to cut first because you're saying, you know what, this is not a necessity. I got to cut it because I got to eat. Little Billy needs a new pair of shoes and some socks and all the other things that he needs to go on to school and so on and so forth. So all this money, Canelo, Bival's, $74, $75 tonight, $75. Errol Spence Ugas, $75. Like you're talking about all this money that's coming out of the pockets of people, right? And so look, and fortunately, boxing fans get a little bit of a rest because next week you get Haney and Kambosos on ESPN, right? So if you got an ESPN subscription, you don't got to pay extra money to see that fight, So you're happy there. You got Bertabiev and Joe Smith on the 18th on ESPN. That's another free fight. So free fights are good. Stephen Fulton, Danny Roman, that's coming up as well. Free fight if you have Showtime. So the point is, look, boxing is we're getting a lot of good fights over these past few weeks. Castano and Charlo, that was a good one. Charlo gets the stoppage, shows a little bit of a clutch gene in that particular fight. But at the end of the day, if you bought these three pay-per-views, if you bought Bivol and Canelo, if you bought Ugas and Spence, if you bought tonight, you're talking about what 250, almost $250, $260 worth of pay-per-views. It's a lot of money, man. I mean, gas is crazy. Gas is crazy. And who knows how long it's going to be crazy. Food is crazy. And who knows how long food is going to be crazy. If you need a car, buying a used car or any type of car, it's crazy. So, all these fights that cost all this money, like $80 is a lot of money, right? In this economy, with COVID and everything that's going on, who knows what's going to happen with COVID going forward, right? Who knows what shoe is going to drop with that situation? Because apparently cases are rising throughout the country. So the point I'm trying to make is this. All these pay-per-views cost money. And boxing fans are forking out their dollars to buy these pay-per-views. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap, man. And especially with this economy, it's not cheap. So it is what it is. And in the grand scheme of things, was this a pay-per-view fight? No, it's not. But it was. So it is what it is. And then you're going to have Canelo, Triple G, 3 in September, another pay-per-view situation. Hopefully we get Spence and Crawford at some point in time. That's going to be pay-per-view. Look, here's the thing. Spence Crawford, yeah, if you got the money, you're willing to fork over the dollars to see it. Triple G Canelo, not in love with it. I'm kind of done with that. But it's still a decent fight. And I think it's still, if you got the money, I think it's worth the pay-per-view dollars. But anything outside of that, I know Deontay Wilder's coming back at some point in time. I don't know. He, made the announcement that he's returning. Again, I don't know who it's going to be against. But if it's, let's say you get a Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz, would that be worth a pay-per-view? Maybe, right? But, who knows? I would love, just a side note, I would love to still see Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder get it on. I would love to see that fight happen. I still would be okay, still be happy if I could see Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua get it on at some point in some time. The fight still works for me. I still would purchase that one. But I mean, so look, I would buy that pay-per-view for sure. So look, at the end of the day, when it comes to all this, right, this wasn't a pay-per-view fight, but it is a pay-per-view, and it is what it is. But I wonder what it did on the pay-per-view market, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. Tank is, if you want to see Tank going forward, you got to watch him on pay-per-view. That's it. He is graduated to pay-per-view. He ain't never coming back to free TV. He ain't never coming back. This dude is a pay-per-view star, probably, maybe, hopefully for Mayweather Promotion. Well, for him, because he's probably not going to be with Mayweather Promotions going forward. But for him, hopefully, it does well. But it's not ideal, especially in this economy. It's just not. But boxing at this point, it's a niche sport. It's not, a major sport. But people still care about this. Nobody puts on an event like boxing. Mayweather Pacquiao, for example, right? That was the talk of sports, right? That took over the world of sports. So there's not many times where a fight of that magnitude will take over the world of sports. Sometimes the sad part doesn't happen in terms of those type of fights happen more. It doesn't happen as much as it should. But I think we're going to see Spence and Crawford at some point. Just a matter of when. I do think we'll see it, and that fight is not going to be as big as it. This is the biggest it can get, right? Because both of them, Spence came off that big win against Ugas. Got 3 belts. Crawford has the other belt. So we're talking undisputed at 147 for all the marbles with the two best guys at 147, maybe the two top guys in terms of pound for pound in the sport of boxing. It doesn't get any better or bigger than that. That is probably the biggest fight that can be made in boxing. You can argue any fight, Canelo against whoever, right? Could be alongside it. But at the end of the day, that is the best fight that can be made in boxing. There's no fight that's better than Canelo against, not Canelo, Spence and Crawford. But you look at Tank Davis, right? We looked at 135 and we're saying, like, look, if at the time, the four, we can't call them kings. Can we call them four princes? Right, the four princes, right? Because we were talking about Garcia and Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez, right? We were all excited. David Haney as well. We were all excited about the possibilities of all these guys fighting and getting it on, and and all the excitement that could happen at the 135-pound division. But we're not getting the fights. We weren't getting the fights, and fortunately, Kambosos beat Teofimo. And ultimately, we get a super fight at 135 between Kambosos and Devin Haney. So, it worked out to a degree, but we're still waiting for Tank to fight one of those guys. And I don't know if it's going to happen ever. Well, maybe. Who knows? But, I don't know. But who does Tank fight on the PBC side at this point? Who does he fight? A Chris Colbert? Right? Chris Colbert just came off a loss. Who does Tank fight on the PBC side? There's not a lot of options on the PBC side. It's just not. It's just not a lot of options on the PBC side for Tank Davis to fight it between. This was like Rolly seemed like he was the last dude, right? He's the last guy that he could fight that on the PBC side. So there's not many options on the PBC side for Tank Davis. So that's going to be interesting to see how they figure that out and what they do with Tank, because the options are limited at this point. I would think he would have to cross the street, so to speak, if he wants to get the fight that he wants. Those big fights. I mean, a Ryan Garcia fight is big, but they got to figure that situation out. Ryan Garcia, Golden Boy into zone. They got to figure that all out. But that's a huge fight. That's a big fight. That's a big fight. Teofimo seems like, again, he's going to 140. So if Tank is going to fall into 140, that's a fight that could happen. But, I mean, the reality is, if Kambosos beats Haney, it's probably going to be, why can't we have Davis and Kambosos after that for undisputed at 135? I don't know what kind of mandatories Kambosos would have after that fight. I don't know. But, it just makes logical sense. But outside of that, could Tank go to 140 and try to go after Josh Taylor, who looked vulnerable against Cottrell? Is that a fight for Tank Davis? 140 against Josh Taylor? But again, it would require some crossing of the street of some level, right? So it's all tricky and complicated when it comes to boxing, because there's streets. People. There's streets. We got streets. People don't want to cross the street. People don't want to go to this street, that street, right? They don't want to do it. They don't want to cross the street. And again, looking at the scorecards before the stoppage, Rolly ahead on one of the cards, 48-47. Tank Davis ahead on the other card, 48-47, and 49-46. Tank Davis ahead on that card as well. So Tank, if the fight, Tank seems like he would have ultimately gotten the fight on the cards, the scorecards, if it was going to decision, but no one knew. Everybody knew that wasn't happening. That was not happening. But look, Tank Davis did his job tonight. Look, Rolly Romero did his job tonight. Well, he did his job this week and months in terms of hyping this fight up. He did his job. So kudos to him for handling his business in terms of promoting the fight. Kudos to Tank for handling his business tonight in terms of winning the fight and knocking Rolly out and giving the fans what they want. Fans love knockouts. They love knockouts. They love knockouts. They love a fight to end not with the scorecards, but they love the fight to end with the knockout. In terms of the undercard, I got to be honest, it was bad. That was not a very exciting undercard. It just wasn't. Spike O'Sullivan and Arislandi Lara in the co-main just wasn't a good undercard. Just wasn't. Lucas Santa Maria against Jesus Ramos. Again, meh. It's a lot of meh on the undercard. And at the end of the day, the main event did live up to what it. I mean, it was fun for as long as it lasted, right? But we all said it would be fun for as long as it lasts. It would be fun. It'd be exciting, right? And that's what it was. It was. The work rate for both of these fighters wasn't great, but at the end of the day, you got a conclusion. You got a stunning conclusion. You got a conclusion that can't be disputed, right? It ended with a knockout. So you got that. You got a happy ending there. And ultimately, Rolly Romero goes home, but he'll be back. Rolly will be back. I think Rolly Rolly didn't look bad tonight. I think Rolly has power. So I think Rolly is a guy who can still be, win some decent fights and be in some good fights because of his ability to talk it up. And he's not a bad. Rolly isn't hot garbage. By no means is Rolly hot garbage. We can talk about him being awkward. Tank called him, he's not an awkward fighter. He's just a dumb fighter, right? Tank said that this week, which was hilarious. But at the end of the day, Rolly still is a guy that could get into a fight with somebody and, be able to sell the fight. And I think, do well in the fight. So things aren't bad for Rolly. He didn't look awful. It's not like he got knocked out in the first round. No, he didn't get knocked out in the first round. Rolly, fought well for parts of this fight and wasn't bad for parts of this fight, but unfortunately, he got caught. And, unfortunately for him, he got caught. And, sometimes you get caught. We got Leonard Ellerbe talking about Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions, putting on a terrific show, sold out crowd, multi-million-dollar gate. He's done his job. Media's job, in part, is to demand the best fight. Can sometimes lead to disagreements, but there's no question Tank is a star. That is from Chris Mannix, and there is no question. Tank is a star, and a credit to Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions. Whether you hate him or love him, terrific show. You got a sold-out crowd. You got a multi-million-dollar gate. Job is done, right? And according to Chris Mannix, the media's job is, in part, to demand the best fights, which is true. But at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, Tank Davis is a star. And that cannot be disputed. He is a star. And whether you can question the level of competition, right? You can question that. And those are legitimate questions. But at the end of the day, a star was there in the house tonight in Tank Davis. And the people, 18,970 people, came out because of him. And Rolly helped, but people came to see Tank Davis. Baltimore stood up for Tank Davis. New York City stood up for Tank Davis tonight. And they came out in the star power. Madonna in the building. Madonna, right? It's a big fight if Madonna's there, right? I guess you would think, right? The Material Girl was in the building. She was in the building tonight. So, you got people that came out. And again, like I said, in Chris Manning's tweet, I think it's a perfect tweet. And I think it sums up where people are at when it comes to Tank Davis. Sold out crowd. Gate was great. Made everybody made some money. But at the end of the day, Tank is a star. Tank is a star and continues to make star-making performances. Now look, on the paper, this is not like you're supposed. But look, it's like last week. Last week, David Benavidez knocked out David Lemieux, beat him up, dropped him, stopped him, did everything he needed to do in that fight. And that was a fight. It was a foregone conclusion. David Benavidez was going to beat David Lemieux coming into that fight. We all know who was going to win that fight. But at the end of the day, the fun part is, well, David Benavidez knocked him out and made it look spectacular. And people were at that point bigging David Benavidez up and, bumping him up and supporting him and, lauding him for that performance and showing him love for that particular performance. A lot of people were showing David Benavidez a lot of love for that particular performance. So clearly, right? That's what happened here tonight. Gervonta Davis fighting Rolly Romero, a fight that we all knew to conclude. We all knew was going to happen. We all knew who the winner was. We already changed. Tank's record coming in. He was 26-0 with 24 knockouts. Well, most of us already said he's going to be 27-0 with probably 25 knockouts. Like, we all knew that part, and we all knew what was going to happen. There was no surprise. There was no shock. There was no level of amazement, right? We all knew what was going to happen at the end of that fight. And so what had happened was, Tank Davis did what we thought he was going to do. Tank Davis did what the world thought he was going to do. So Tank Davis' job is done. And this kid, again, if he can stay out of trouble, and that's my only concern when it comes to Tank Davis. This kid can stay out of trouble. The sky is the limit. If he can continue to mature, continue to grow, and be better as a man, as a person, the sky is the limit. The world is his oyster, and he's going to win belts, and he's going to sell out more shows, and he's going to, compile a bunch of big pay-per-view numbers along the way. If he continues on, doing what he's doing and fighting the way he's fighting and selling the fights the way he's selling the fights, sky is the limit. Sky is the limit for this kid. He's an amazing fighter in terms of his power, in terms of his ability to stop you and drop you with one punch. That's what we saw tonight. He stopped and dropped Rolly with one punch. That was it, right? It was one punch. That was it. One punch knockout. It wasn't, accumulation of blows. It was a one punch knockout. It was a one hitter quitter. And that's what we saw tonight from Tank Davis. And that's what he brings to the table. Him being electric. Him being big time. Him being able to stop and drop and knock dudes out. That's what we saw with Tank Davis tonight. And that's why he is box office. And that's why he's one of the biggest names in the sport of boxing. That's why he's one of the cash cows in the sport of boxing. Let's go back. There was a shooting incident, an active shooter there at Barclays Center, reportedly. Let's look at Mike Coppinger, ESPN. A Barclays security supervisor told ESPN there was a person with a gun in the main plaza that led to a stampede back into the arena. Multiple people transported to hospital. Officials estimate approximately 12 injuries, among them a concussion and an elbow injury. So, active shooter at the Barclays reportedly, allegedly, people, some injuries happened. Crazy scene, obviously. Barclays security, let's read it again. Barclays security supervisors told ESPN there was a person with a gun in the main plaza that led to a stampede back into the arena. Multiple people transported to hospitals. Officials estimate approximately 12 injuries, among them among them, a concussion and an elbow injury. So, craziness happened at the Barclays Center. People not knowing how to act. Whoever that person was who brought a gun into the Barclays Center, which shouldn't happen, but hey, if you can get it, I guess if there's a will, there is a way. But they found a way to get their gun in. There are metal detectors, I believe, at Barclays Center. I believe there are. So, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be able to get that through in theory. But again, if you can get anything through, if you really want to get it through, that's just a reality. If there's a will, there's definitely a way, unfortunately. But, that's a scary situation. And, with 18,000 people and people running, for their lives and all that going on, especially how the situation is with what happened in Texas, people's, they're a little heightened by that, right? Their senses are a little heightened when it comes to shooting and active shooters and things of that nature. So I think that makes it even more scarier, just the idea that, hey, look, we just saw a situation in Texas and that is, fresh in a lot of people's minds. And now, you have a situation at Barclays Center where, gunshots are and people, running for their lives in theory. And it's just craziness and just ridiculousness and just pure chaos happening. That's scary stuff, man. That is scary stuff. Somebody getting out, concussion, elbow injury. That is scary. That is scary stuff. And there's no getting around that. NYPD detective told ESPN they were looking to the possibility there was a shooting. So still looking into that. Again, scary situation. Again, Naomi Osaka, tennis player. I was just in Barclays Center. Suddenly I heard shouting and saw people running. Then we were being yelled at that there was an active shooter. We had to huddle in a room and close the doors. Wow. Scary. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's a scary situation. Again, people still investigating. Some people had to be taken to a hospital out there at Barclays Center. Memorial Day weekend in New York City, it got scary. It got crazy. And fortunately, at this point, we hear nobody getting killed or anything, or ain't nobody getting shot at any point. But, you do have people with injuries, multiple people with injuries because of what happened in terms of an active shooter. Scary situation, man. Scary situation. Obviously there will be more about it in the days going by about what transpired, what happened, who's hurt, who's not, and so on and so forth. But, whoever, hopefully no one got shot. Hopefully no one, the injuries aren't too serious, in terms of concussion, in terms of the elbow injury. But, man, that's scary stuff. And, it's not something you want to see because so many things can happen. So many people can get hurt. So much wrong can happen in that situation. And fortunately, thankfully, it doesn't appear at this point that anyone was seriously hurt. But obviously a dozen people had to be transported to a local hospital out there, Brooklyn, New York, Barclays Center. Who knows why it happened, what transpired, who knows. But regardless of all that, it is scary to think that someone could, get a gun in there and do harm to a lot of people. 18,000 people, right? So let's be clear about the 18,000 people. That's a lot of people in a confined area where a lot of bad can go down. That's just reality. A lot of bad can go down, and a lot of people could get hurt, scarred, maimed, so on and so forth. It's just scary, man. Scary. And again, people are on a heightened alert because of what happened in Texas. They're on heightened alert. The sensitivity towards that, active shooters and all that is high, and rightfully so. And again, hopefully, going forward, they can do a better job of, keeping the guns out of the Barclays Center, right? Hopefully going forward they can do that. But, it's scary. But again, we'll see what happens with that. So, Tank Davis wins tonight, stops Rolly Romero, 6-round TKO, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York, in front of a sold-out crowd, 18,970 people in attendance tonight at Barclays Center. And Tank Davis continues his winning ways. And we'll see what's next with Tank. Who is he fighting next? Does he fight the winner of Kambosos Haney? That would be fun. That'd be exciting. Does he fight Ryan Garcia? That'd be fun. That'd be exciting. All those things would be fun. All those things would be exciting. They fight Rolly again? Well, Rolly wants to fight him again, but I don't think that'll happen. But that would be fun. That'd be exciting, I guess, right? At least during fight week, because Rolly is a clown and he's funny. And he says funny things. And so that'd be exciting. But we shall see. Gervonta Tank Davis, brought the house down. He brought 18,970 people into the Barclays Center. $5+ million gate tonight. He did everything that he needed to do. Rolly did his job. Tank did his job. And again, Rolly got booed by a lot of people, and Tank was cheered by a lot of people. So the crowd got what they wanted, I guess, in theory. So we're getting out of here now. Please like, please subscribe, please support the channel. We'll be back here next Saturday night. Devin Haney, George Kambosos. We'll be back at the end of that fight to talk about what transpired, what happened. I'm telling you right now, I do believe that going into that fight, that's a 7-5 fight either way. And I think because it's a 7-5 fight in Australia, it's going to go George Kambosos' way. I'm predicting a George Kambosos win. Will be controversial, maybe, but I think it's going to be a 7-5 fight. So to me, a 7-5 fight is really not controversial. It's just a 7-5 fight that could have went either way in a lot of ways. So you look at it, I think George Kambosos is going to win. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Devin Haney handles that environment. Australia without his father, 23 years old, the biggest fight of his life. I mean, Devin Haney seems like he's born and ready for this moment, right? The kid seems like he's been built for this moment and built for this time and built for this situation. And so we are ready and waiting for him to go out there in Australia and be legendary and get a belt, get all the belts, right? People call him the email champion at this point. So you want the email champion to go out there and get all the belts, get all the straps out of Australia and be legendary. But I think it's going to be very difficult. But we'll be back next Saturday night to talk about it at the end and go through and see what could be next in the 135-pound division in the sport of boxing. So again, like, subscribe, support the channel, and again, we'll be back next week. We're out of here. Peace.